and welcome back to my channel. I'm Selena and you're watching So Small. I thought I'd start this video off with just a little apologies. I had a few comments on my last video that the sound wasn't able to be heard by some people who watched it. Again, as I've said, I'm sorry. I'm still trying out and working the best ways of using my new microphone. So this time I've got it a lot closer and I hope it picks up my voice a bit better. And fingers crossed we'll have better luck this time round. So today I'm here to talk to you about the makes I've made in January and some of the plans I've got for the rest of February. So one of the first things I made in January, right back at the beginning, I sewed up the Tilly and the Buttons Billy sweatshirt and sweatshirt dress pattern. I opted for the dress, I opted for pockets, and I've done it in a really nice blue Ponte Roma. I found the pattern really easy to work with. I sewed it all up on my overlocker. So yeah, easy pattern to complete. Tilly's instructions, as usual, are really easy to follow. The pictures really help a lot. And yeah, no qualms with it. I think I did a few minor things on my sewing machine, but with the cuff bands and with the neck band and a bottom band, all could be done on my overlocker, and I went through it quite happily. So yeah, definitely one to do again. I'm quite tempted to do just a jumper version, but it's cozy. I'm living in it a lot. So definitely happy with that one. So close to that pattern, one I finished a couple of weeks later, but I thought I'll talk about it now because it's quite similar to the Billy, is I also completed the Nina Lee South Bank sweater. Similar to Billy in sort of, it's similar to Billy in the way that they're both sweatshirt dresses. They both have pockets. The big difference for me, and I'm slightly leaning towards preferring the Nina Lee, is it's got a round neck attachment at the top. So it's not just a plain neck back, it's got that round neck, which for me just gives that little bit of protection here, which I kind of like to just add some coziness. And I think it's slightly more fitted in the body. I've gone for the pockets with this pattern. I know a few people have added pockets and taken them away. I think again I've used a blue Ponte sweatshirting fabric again. I'm not sure of the composition of either of the fabrics for my Billy or the South Bank. They were part of the stash I bought that someone else had got, so I know they're in there, but I don't know where they've come from or what exactly the type of fabric they are. But it's more of a shiny blue. There's a slight glitter tone to the fabric, and it's sewn up really nicely into the Nina Lee pattern. And I sewed that up while chatting with a local sewing group to me, the Devon Sews group. They meet once a month, and it was really nice to just have a good bit of a Sunday chit chat and have a nice easy pattern that I sewed up on, again, on my overlocker with roll neck, cuffs and hembands. There was no need for a sewing machine, so I always quite like some of those quick easy sews. Another pattern I've completed this month, which for me was a big achievement, was the Simplicity K2253. Now this is an evening wear dress pattern that I cut out way back when in 2016, really early on in my sewing journey. I remember I sewed it out at home. I lived out at Bridgewater at the time, and I cut out the pieces back at my mum and dad's, and then I took them home with me. And I suddenly realised when I got to Bridgewater and I looked at the pieces, I just cut one of them out backwards. Don't ask me how, I couldn't tell you now how I did it. So I then contacted my mum, she sent me the fabric over, and I've had this pattern cut out, the spare fabric ready to replace the piece, sat in a box for 4 years. And on Facebook recently, Sister Mintaka, she redid her challenge, feeling so much better. And I took this as a chance to, do you know what, I'm going to get that whip out. The other reason I chose to make that whip, UFO, depends how you want to call it, it's been a while, was that it's pink. Later on this month is Pigeon Wish's pink and red party. And I thought to myself, I don't really have lots of pink or red, she says wearing this. but I'm very much blue. If I was to show you my stash, you'd see a lot more bluey tones to my fabric choices. So suddenly thought, I don't really have anything pink or red, and I thought this is a good chance to combine Feeling So Much Better and the Pigeon Witches Pink and Red Party, get that UFO out and get it finished. It took me a week. The Feeling So Much Better is all about taking a project and breaking it down and doing a little bit each day to have the full finished object on the Sunday. And I did just that, which allowed me to have little bits of accomplishment towards this project that's been sat in the back of my sewing mind for a while now, and then to feel really like I've achieved something on the Sunday when I had this finished dress. Luckily, past me had cut out a reasonably big size, so it meant that present me could work out that I could take it in. I made the adjustments, a lot of them to the body. As you can see from the pictures, the bodice is panelled, so there's a series of panels on the front, a series of panels on the back. I chose to have the option with the one sleeve. The pattern does come with like a frill on the top, but the reason I've made this pattern is one of my other hobbies. Within the air training call, we often have some evening dinners, and I just wanted something else that I could have at an evening dinner, and I knew having this flash would get in the way when I had to have both my shoulders covered. So being only one shoulder, this would still be exposed, so I need to put a shawl or a scarf over me, so I didn't want another frill on this shoulder to lift that up to get in the way. So I omitted that, which was an easy thing to do with the pattern, and it all came together, and it fits really well. I've made good adjustments, it's really comfortable, and there's just such a sense of accomplishment in me that after so many years I finally cracked this one out of its box, and I redid the pieces. It turns out I had 2 or 3 that I cut out wrong. I think it was a case of not having the pattern pieces the right way round. More key to the front pieces, the back it didn't really matter because they were done on the fold. So all done up, and yeah, I can see now how much further I've come since I cut these pieces out, and I've done a few bits of marking and stitching, and I worked with what past me had cut out, and I know I could do better again, but I have this accomplishment that is that project that's been sat around for so long and it's finally finished. So that was another real big accomplishment for me for January, so I was happy with that one. So one of the other projects I've done this month is the outfit I'm wearing today. So the outfit I'm wearing are both Tilly and the Buttons patterns. This one is a Tilly and the Buttons Freya top, but I've done the cowl neck, and I did this before Christmas, and I did this top for a purpose of wearing it with my previous Cleo pinafores. So this is the Cleo pinafore, so again by Tilly and the Buttons. I have cut out a size 4, and this was the first time I actually chose to do both sets of pockets. I've got 3 Cleos. The first one I did with no pocket, I've done it in denim, and I just did the pinafore. The second one I've got in a purple corduroy fabric, and I just did the front pocket because I suddenly decided actually it's quite useful to have a pocket. And then with this one, because I had enough fabric going, I've done the longer knee length version, which was the first time I've done that, and I have done the pockets, which I hadn't realised until I've done them. They are really useful. So this fabric kind of links back into more of a sustainability focus that I've kind of approached since doing New Craft House challenge last September. And this is actually, these were my mother-in-law's curtains. I've then they used some of it to recover the chairs in their dining room, and then she gave me the rest, and I have now made this Cleo pinafore, and I've also made a sew over at Ivy skirt, and that was at the end of last year. The fabric is really actually nice to work with. I did worry initially when I had made this that actually it was going to be slightly Christmassy. It's quite red, but actually the red is dark enough that it doesn't. I think it was before Christmas I cut this out, and the connection of the two made me think it was quite a Christmas dress, and actually it's really not. It's really comfortable. I've chosen, as you can see, I've done the buckles, and I also did a contrast lining, because I thought these in turn themselves, the straps are folded in half, and this is quite thick, and I thought if I was to have the same lining, so use the curtain fabric for the lining as well, that would have made all of this area of this pinafore really chunky, and it's sitting really nice, and I thought that chunkiness, especially at the hips, would have just made it too bulky. So I'm really glad I chose not to use the same fabric for the lining, and then it adds just a different pop of colour. So this was just some curtain fabric I'd bought for some patterns to make some of these iPad cushions many years ago. So it felt nice to bring a scrap out of my stash and use it with this. And really, as with any Tilly pattern, as I've said before, instructions are brilliant and they help just keep you on track. They've photos, just follow them. I did it slightly different, that I focused on doing all of the front, because I did this after the feeling so much better, and I liked that kind of few bit stages in the evenings. So I focused on doing the front first. So I stitched them together, stitched the pocket on, got that all pressed, put that aside, and then the next step I went back and did the back pieces, put them together and put the pockets on. The pattern tells you to do the front, sew the front together, sew the back together, then go back and put the pockets on everything. So I just kind of did it, focused on the front, focused on the back, so also meant I wasn't losing pattern pieces all around the house. And together it's a really comfortable sew. I do like the Clio. I'm really quite into these more pinafore dresses because I can layer them up really well. I can put a couple of layers on underneath and I can feel warm and cozy. So always definitely a recommended pattern. I've actually picked up a spare for a friend for a gift, so I'm really pleased for that too. So my last make that I made in January was actually for my daughter, and I used up the scraps, the leftovers from the coat I made for my mother-in-law before Christmas. So I have made her this walnut duffel coat. So the walnut duffel coat is a pattern by Poppy and Jazz. That's the children's range linked with Sew Over at London. I am still actually missing a toggle, but with lockdown and restrictions it's not been easy to get more cord in order to add the third toggle. I have made it slightly big, so it's not hurting at the moment we don't have a toggle, because I went for the biggest size because I thought it's such a nice fabric. It's a bit more costly and I had everything. I kind of wanted to make it in a size that I knew my daughter would get the most wear out of. I added a hanging strap as well. So it's fully lined, so we did the version, I think it's version 1, which is the lined version. And really, again, I like Sew Over It patterns. I like, so therefore Poppy and Jazz are similar. Good instructions, good pictures to follow. I like the little pockets and I like the touch that they're lined as well, even though it's sewn in the side seams at the back. There's this nice kind of touch element, and I feel I like this fabric. So this fabric came from Minerva, and it is quite thick and hefty. So when I made my mother-in-law's coat in the same fabrics, I used my old machine, which is now sat up on the shelf above me here, because I knew how she worked. She was tried and tested, and it was quite chunky and clunky. So this coat was the first time I used this fabric on my new machine sat behind me, and again quite similarly a bit chunky, but she still managed to hold it quite well. So I'm really pleased with how well the machine sewed that, following the edges, and I feel that it's come out, for me, sometimes we can all admit we're not the best at following some of the lines, but I feel she's come out really well. All the fabric came from Minerva. I picked up the toggles, and the cord came from Dunelm. The toggles are hemline toggles. They came in a packet of 2, so I've got the others there. So it's such a cute pack. I saw the 2 versions the Baker That Sews made for her nephew and a friend's child, so I knew that she'd done the lined version, and I knew I wanted to do the lined version as well. I'm not so au fait with binding it to feel confident to have bound all of the edges, though I would say that could make it a bit easier if you couldn't find a lining to go with your wool. It definitely depends on the type of fabric you've used for the outer. It does say in the instructions if you've got quite a thick coating, then maybe the lining isn't so much of a good choice, because it can be harder to sew through. So that was my final make for January. So I've done quite a few. I'm really pleased that I've kind of worked averaging out about one a week. So for February, one of the things I'm focusing on, so even though I have finished my pink dress, it is still an evening gown, and I thought that actually for Galentine's Day and for Pigeon Wish's pink and red party, I kind of wanted something a bit partyish but a bit more playful. So I picked up this fabric from Rainbow Kilburn in one of their last sale drops of dead stock fabric, and I saw it was red and I thought, I honestly don't have much red. I'm wearing this now. Between this and the skirt in the same fabric, that probably is the limit of the red in my wardrobe. So when I saw this, I thought it was something slightly different. I quite like that it's a darker tone of red, and then when it arrived, it's so flowy and it feels so nice that I can't wait to get that started. So I'm going to use the Sew Over It Giselle as a base, but I'm not going to make it as long. I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to add a bit of a flounce to the bottom. So then it's more of I feel a bit more of like a 20s vibe, still closer to the body, but with a bit flowy at the bottom. So I'm really excited to make that one. I'm also looking at hopefully doing some Stella joggers. I've traced out the pattern. I thought for myself, given the current situations, I ran out of dressmaking paper before Christmas. I've not been able to find any online to get. But then I remembered I have one of those really long IKEA rolls of paper. So what I did is I stuck the pattern to my window downstairs on the patio doors, and then I put the IKEA roll of paper, because it's not quite that, it's thick but not thick enough. So then with the light coming through from the patio, I was able to trace through the jogger pattern on this IKEA paper, and I've got rolls of that. So I feel I'm now not limited to tracing patterns because I don't have expensive pattern paper. So I thought that's a nice tip to know for future. So I've got that traced out. I've got a grey fabric because, as is the trend on Instagram at the moment, some of us are embracing the full dress down, lockdown look and actually going out and making our own loungewear. So I'd like to give joggers a go because I've got a ready-to-wear super dry pair that I think are quite similar, and I'd like another pair so that I'm not wearing the same ones all the time. And it's really nice soft grey sweatshirting fabric. So I'm excited to give that a try. I also have the Tilly and the Buttons indigo dress. I've seen a few versions lately. I was inspired by Angela's at Devon Threadtails. She did Sew Along for her indigo. She did the full dress version. And actually for me, it was always worried about how wide the bodice would sit. And I know she added ties to hers, but I think I am going to go without the ties because very recently Hazel at Hazel and the Machine on Instagram, she's done the shorter, more tunicky version, which I do want, is the length I want to do rather than the dress. And she's done it without ties, and actually it sits really nicely. So I think I'm going to give that one a go. I've got a couple of fabrics I'd like to try in an indigo. I also have plans for this month to do the heather dress. I have double-sided fabric, which is black on one side and purple on the other, and I'm going to use that fabric to make a colour blocked version of the heather dress. I'm going to do purple down the middle, black on the sleeves and in the top part under the arms. And I'm thinking I might also film that as a sew along as you go with me. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be my first sew along. I thought it would be different pattern, nice jersey pattern, something a bit different to have you sew along with me and see how some of the things I do. I'm going to leave my plans for February there. I'm not going to be too overzealous. If I feel I've got time, I might then go and hit one of my Make 9. I'm into February and haven't actually made any of my Make 9s yet. So I think I might do one of my Make 9s, and I'm quite tempted to go for the kilo wrap dress first. I can see the fabric looking at me right now. I can also feel the cold weather from outside, and I'm feeling nice long maxi dress with long sleeves is going to be the way forward. So I'm going to put that one as a possibility for February, but not a definite. But hopefully I can definitely get the heather dress done. I can do my Galentine's dress and maybe an indigo with the Stella joggers on top. So those are my January sewing makes and my February sewing plans. So hopefully I'll be back here at the end of the month having given you a sew along and with a few new makes. So thank you for watching. Please leave any questions or comments below. If you don't already, please subscribe. Also follow me over on Instagram. I am at SewSmalls25. I'm currently still completing an Instagram challenge I set myself which is Selena's 365 days of sewing, and we're on I've completed day 41 of uploading a photo every day to my grid with something sewing related. So that's it. That's all for me now. Bye.